Yeah, they always say it's only 1 minute, but the truth is, very often I'm already hitting the internet. I've had the same council agenda for like 13 years, and without fail, my family continues to call me during council meetings. What did you do today? I don't know, same thing I've done first business day of the week for the last 13 years. It's been 13 years. 19 years. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real thing. Alrighty. With that, I call this meeting to order, the regular council meeting of May 19th, 2026. I just want to pass on regrets from Councillor Gale, who is out of not going to be joining us this evening with an excused absence. And first item on the agenda is, of course, the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Singh? Conversation? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Nothing on the consent agenda this evening, and it brings us into the minutes from last week. Can I get a motion? Item 4A, Councillor McDonald.
I so move.
Okay, conversation, all in favor? Carried. No public hearings, no delegations. And we're ripping right along to items 7A, business, economic development, 10-year strategic update. I believe Director Krasinski is going to be kicking things off. Please take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you for having me here this evening to present the What We Heard report from the recently completed public engagement survey for the Cochrane Economic Development Strategy. Joining me tonight is Evan Woolley with Colliers Project Leaders, who's going to provide a brief presentation on the results of the public engagement survey and provide a high-level update on next steps for the project. Before I hand it off to Evan, I just wanted to highlight that the content of this presentation and report is specific to the public engagement survey that recently completed, which is a component of the larger engagement plan for this project, and a comprehensive What We Heard report that includes the results of other engagement sessions, such as the one-on-ones with council and focus groups with specific focus group sessions with specific interest holders, will be provided along with the economic development strategy later in July. As this item relates to another closed session item on the agenda for later this evening, which I am also the project sponsor for, I want to ensure that both projects were brought to council for an update on the same evening, as they are related and will inform each other. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mr. Evan Woolley from Colliers Project Leaders, and we'll take you through the results of the public economic development survey. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and hello, everybody. Did I overhear that it's your birthday, Your Worship?
You did.
I would just, if there's, I'm sure there's nowhere else you'd rather be on your birthday evening than sitting in and amongst your colleagues here today. So
well,
happy
technically
birthday.
It was on the weekend, okay, so we're
good.
Okay, we're
great.
good.
Well, thanks very much for the time. Are you okay if I move quickly through the presentation?
Please.
And then we can answer, but interrupt me at any point.
Okay.
Again, thanks very much. You've seen this slide before, and I know I've had the opportunity to sit down with each of you individually. This is our engagement framework and kind of the steps that we've taken. You'll see we've completed steps 1, 2, and almost all of 3. We do have a public open house coming this weekend, but we're really like in the phase of report writing and overlaying all of the data that we've been analyzing with the engagement that we've heard. And I'll just say I do a lot of community engagement across Western Canada in cities and in organizations big and small. The responses have been super thoughtful, and I'm not cheating by giving you a bit of advance on this, but I was really interested in the feedback that we got from members of the public being very aligned with the feedback that I heard from all of you, and that there's probably more that aligns you than divides you in terms of economic development. And I will just say, I think at a high level, there's probably a bit of voter fatigue. They just all engaged, all of you just last year, you went through 2050, and well, some of our numbers were a little bit thin. The level of engagement, the quality of engagement was really high. I'll just move. So today's presentation is just a summary of the survey, and then some of the key ideas that came out of that. We will be coming as a part of the larger report with a fulsome engagement update, and that will be baked in thoroughly within the economic development strategy. So just quickly, we focused on areas of economic priority and opportunity, community and business supports, vision and values for the future, and community readiness for investment. The survey was open for 5 weeks. We did have upwards of 200 people complete the survey, and we were expecting a little less than that, so this was really, really positive. The large majority of those who engaged were working-aged adults, followed by older adults. You'll often expect that seniors engage at a higher level, but I was really, really happy with this big demo of working-age adults. And then as you dive into it a little bit more, almost everybody lived in Cochrane, which is great. We wouldn't want to have seen a whole bunch of people responding from Sundre as a part of this work. And then again, a surprising amount of people have lived in Cochrane for more than a decade. And so it's people that are the people in this engagement have lived in the community for a long time. They're highly educated and highly engaged. Oops. This is just one of the, we've collected a lot of, we've teased out a lot of kind of feedbacks and quotes that we've heard from people. This one was, I'm glad you're doing this. This is, and to hear some good ideas. I think on a whole, Cochranites love our town and they want to continue to see it grow and prosper. Kind of the 4 key themes that emerged as a part of this. Everybody knows what economic development is. It's one of those nebulous terms at times where you're like, well, what is it and what is the municipality's role? But people were very thoughtful. They know what economic development means, and they think that the municipality has an important role in it. Cochrane has many distinct economic strengths, but they really want to see clear and strategic about what kind of community Cochrane really wants to be. And they're concerned about the fast pace of growth. I know I heard this from many of you. And there is something pretty unique here, and I think everybody identified that in all of the conversations and all the feedback that we've had. I've kind of thought about it in this way, which is how do you embrace change without losing those things in your community that you love the most? And I think that that's a very, very challenging thing, but is the business that you're in, right? And you have this incredible amount of growth and change happening in the community, and how do you not lose the things that you love about this neighborhood and this community? And how that growth is going to take place, and I know that you're talking about that later today. Some of kind of the key ideas that came up: technology and innovation, tourism and hospitality. I will say that not everybody has the same idea about tourism. There was a bit of shifting perspectives on that, of whether you want more of it or less of it. Well-planned industrial and commercial growth. We know that the small businesses are struggling to find a place to do small business in this community. And lifestyle and community-oriented development, right? You've got this incredible river flowing through your municipality. You are on the edge of some of the most beautiful wilderness in the world. And then focus on economic diversification, right? That you're not a one industry town, and that your residents want to see a range of economic development take place within the community. And then finally, balancing economic growth with community well-being is paramount, right? How you grow, where you grow, and at what pace matters a lot. And it matters in terms of having a coherent, shared, and durable economic vision. Just to give you all a heads up, we have our last open house this coming weekend. We will have a steering committee presentation on the 25th, then coming to committee of the whole on July 6th, followed by a final presentation of the final report on July 13th. And then I'll just end with this one. It will continue to be important to balance the needs of all residents, reflecting the desire to maintain a small town charm unique to the history of the town, while also acknowledging that growth will continue to happen and bring new ideas, opportunities, and development. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today.
All right, thanks for the update. Council, can we get a motion to start the conversation? Councillor Wilson?
I'll make that motion that we accept as information, I assume is the option one. Thanks for presenting here, Evan. I had a few questions. I appreciate the how quick your presentation was there. That was that ended very quickly, but there's a bunch of stuff in here that caught my attention. One thing was how many Cochrane business owners were engaged in your estimation? I know you said you had limited turnout, but very engaged residents. Did we have people that skin in the game economically as a business perspective?
Yeah, as a part of some of the other engagements, we did have a focus group session specifically with small businesses. I don't know off the top of my head whether we had unique identifiers in terms of individual businesses identifying in this survey, but we did have a focus group that was open to and engaged through the Chamber of Commerce. That more information in terms of their perspective will be coming out.
Okay, still to come.
Yes.
Was there any prevailing theme amongst current business owners in Cochrane about what we need here, what we're lacking?
Yeah, well, I think that the downtown, and with the greatest love and respect for McKay's Ice Cream, needs to be more than just McKay's Ice Cream, right? And how are you able to today open a small business? We talked to people with home-based businesses. How do you move from a home-based business into a small business? Where can that take place? You've got extremely low, I think near zero commercial retail vacancy in the downtown. And so all of those kind of thoughtful pieces will be kind of woven into our overall report, but we've been happy with the feedback that we've gotten.
That checks out with my experience too, talking to people, yeah. In here you mentioned big box retail stores. It didn't really communicate. Did you get that as is that something that we're not happy with or that we are happy with? I didn't get a response. I just see the topic big box stores in the report.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I have our just condensed slide for today. Was it off the one that you were receiving? Could you just?
Yeah, just the package here that I was reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just specifically?
I was just curious if it was something. When we hear big box stores, is that something that the respondents wanted to see more of, less of? What was? The
Yeah.
thought
I mean,
there?
I think part of Cochrane's historic downtown came up throughout the surveys as a very unique and something to be protected and further developed in terms of that small town business. I think that there's a convenience of big box stores that I think everybody understands is relevant as we're running around taking kids to soccer as a part of our daily lives. But that small town charm, walkable historic downtown, and that focus on that kind of small business was something that was brought up consistently.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my third question here, my last one was on that topic right there. What did we hear about Western heritage design and theme and small town charm? What thoughts did we hear on those topics?
Well, I mean, you and I know talked about that small town, that thematic charm of that Western part of your. I'm looking at your model right behind us. Is something that came up. I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head how much we broke that down in terms of how many people identified that. A lot of people identified small town charm, but maybe less. I'd have to get back to you on the thematic piece around the Western component.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wilson, it was a theme. I think you noticed in the report that there were a few comments that mentioned the need to balance growth and economic diversification with maintaining that small town charm. So I think that might be a couple of the quotes that you may have referenced in the report. I believe it also did come up in some of the top three responses in it, where we're mentioning the need to protect our culture and maintain that small town charm and Western heritage and leverage it for economic growth.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, the two big themes that I heard just now are not surprising to me at all to hear that the pace of growth has outstripped people's desires, and the fact to catch up on infrastructure and to grow thoughtfully, was not a surprise to me. And then the second one you just mentioned about there not being enough commercial space, cost per square footage being insanely high, and moving that home-based business into a retail location is a difficult endeavor here in Cochrane. And so looking forward to hearing what the final report may have to say on those topics and where we'll go from here.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor McDonald?
I was watching a conversation online over the last few days, and this comes up fairly regularly. Someone will ask, hey Cochrane, what are we missing? If I wanted to invest in a business idea in Cochrane, what would you go and spend your money at? And I thought the tension of the conversation was exactly what you're describing tonight and what Councillor Wilson was just talking about. A lot of the answers were things like Michael's, Home Depot, that's what we need here. And then peppered in through that were people going, a lot of us came here from a city because we love the small town, and now you want to draw those amenities you had in the city, bring it to today's standards, I guess, would be the tension as I would describe it. I want to just read a quote from the engagement report, because I think this was incredible and speaks to the quality of the respondents. Cross-sector collaboration matters more than sector dominance. True economic health comes from a diverse, interconnected local economy where entrepreneurs from different fields naturally support one another. Like, some of those quotes really blew me away. I don't know if that's an idyllic state that is impossible to achieve, but I thought that was pretty incredible. And then finally, my question to you, another quote I pulled out, focusing on economic development at the expense of livability is always a losing strategy. So I wanted to ask you, is that, in your opinion, is that a threat that we face?
You want to take a shot at that first? You know what, we've talked about that a lot, and I would say, and I would rarely want to say this, but you can have your cake and eat it too, which is something I would never tell my kids. But there is a piece around, there is a where you're situated in this community that has access to the mountains and north and south, and this whole piece that is attracting a certain typology of person who likes community well-being and recreational opportunities and your rivers and all of those like really wonderful community amenities that come sometimes at the expense of economic development and growth. And I think that there is a sweet spot that you can sit in terms of what your economic development strategy is going to it can do for you, which can balance those things pretty effectively if you do it in the right way, right?
Through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, I think just to echo some of the components that Mr. Woolley mentioned is, and it relates back to the diversification as well and your big box mix and your small local businesses, is I think that there truly is a place for everything in our community, and the right type of economic diversification and growth can actually help make your municipality more livable. I don't have the quote specific verbatim in front of me, but there's another one that references us trying to reduce the need to commute from Cochrane. So I think, to your point with the quote that you mentioned as well about finding those synergies where they benefit each other. Some small businesses will benefit from a Home Depot being located here or from a Michael's located here. So I do feel like, as Mr. Woolley mentioned, there's a way to do both. And livability doesn't need to come at the expense of economic development. It's the doing it at the right pace and the right way with the right businesses located in the right area of the municipality, which as it continues to grow, will provide new different areas that are more suitable for certain types of businesses than for others. And we get to create some unique charm and a diversity of communities in the municipality as well, which makes us, I think, even stronger.
Sure. And so designing it with intention is what I'm hearing. And your strategy that we're going to learn about soon is going to take us to that sweet spot, right?
Through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, of course.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Padeco?
Thank you. The one key thing that stood out for me from reading kind of the different quotes that were provided in the report was answering the question as to what type of community Cochrane wants to be. And I'm really hoping that comes out, because even going through the report and reading different things such as, you know, some people want to see more industry, commercial to balance it out, but then we really don't want to have big industry because then people worry about the health risks or whatever else associated with. It kind of felt like we were almost interviewing two different sets of people, right? Like one that says we need to grow, another one that says we don't need to grow. And I'm hoping that the strategy in the end will be able to tie all that together, because I feel that that is probably, even sitting around this bench, the one question that we ask ourselves is really, what does Cochrane want to be in the future? Where do we want to go? Are we investing money trying to promote the tech industry? Are we looking at, you know, more of a diversified approach as to attracting other business? But I'm really hoping that at the end of the strategy, it really clearly states, obviously from a majority aspect of where we need to go. Because I found it a little bit contradictory just in some people's responses, but I get it. That's why we're here, to hear it in the What We Heard report. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, thanks. I would say like your Envision Cochrane 2050 is like the robust piece that we're tying a very important pillar into, right? And then your council strategic priorities and plans will feed into like in the next 4 years or in the next shorter periods of time, how you reach that like 10-year. But I think all of you were clear in my conversations, which is needs to be understandable, really clear, be actionable. I mean, it will be probably, I think I'd said to maybe you, Mayor Nagel, like there might be a recommendation for another strategy or for a piece of policy work, but it's not just going to be a strategy that recommends only other strategies. There's going to be some near-term wins and some longer-term strategic pieces that you need to think about, but clear, clean, tight, and communicable for your administration and for the public as well.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Fedeko, I really appreciate your comments around that too, and that's one of the reasons we were really excited about doing the economic development strategy early on following Envision Cochrane 2050, is to provide, compared to one of our older strategies, a little bit more clarity as to what specific industries and the type of businesses that we want to target as a municipality, to be a little bit more intentional about what we're pursuing. I think some of the comments in here, we saw that the municipality would like, or the citizens would like the municipality to be a little bit more proactive. And the intent of the strategy will help focus us on what industries we really want to target. Some won't be suitable, I think, for a municipality like Cochrane. You think of your larger, more heavy industry, is what I read through here, is stuff that the residents really don't want to see within our boundaries. But there's an opportunity for us to have adjacent or complementary businesses that maybe support those, and working through our intermunicipal development plan as well to explore what makes most sense in the county, what makes most sense within the municipality, to again, hopefully get, have the cake and eat it too, but give everybody a little bit of what they're looking for, really trying to get the win-win-wins where we can. So.
Councillor McFadden?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple elements that I pulled out there that I found intriguing for different reasons. To Councillor Fedeko's point, there's like so many different viewpoints here, right? Which I don't actually, find surprising. I think there's 40,000 people that live here, and everybody's got a different reason that they're here and what drew them, and so many different varieties. So I think I'm not surprised that we have a dozen different ideas of what success might look like, and that's the trick of this table, is how we balance that away. But it was great just to see the context. One of the stats that was in here that I was intrigued with was it was identified now that we have 6 out of 10 residents working in Calgary, and I think that's actually dropped. I don't know if we've tracked that over the years, but I think that's lower than certainly than I remember being in the past, and so I think a bit of a win. One of the goals that I've always been focused on is trying to create more of a complete community, so there's less reason to not be able to live, work, and play here in Cochrane. So it's interesting to see that number. I mean, I know the different larger factors like COVID and the work from home movements have probably changed that maybe beyond just our brilliant policy making. But it was great to see, whatever the reason is, more people are able to live and work in Cochrane. So my question, just like, I know you're going to be giving your recommendations later. You had identified that residents, or at least the one comment, that there's a greater role, residents are seeing a greater role for the municipality in economic development. Was there any particular examples of what that might mean?
I'm not sure, I'm actually not sure. I don't know. I can have a look and get back to you. I think there is a historic and rightful role based on budgets and based on power that the other orders of government, particularly the provincial and federal governments, are able and do play in economic development. in much bigger ways, and that's both a budget line item, operating budget or capital budget line item, of vastly different quantities, but also just the tools, the tools and levers at their disposal are much different. And so, but I think increasingly, and particularly, and I'm getting to some of the focus groups, but municipalities are competing against other municipalities, and those neighboring municipalities are their friends, but they're also their competitors. And so I have worked with councils who have members on their council, and again, rightly so, the role of the municipality is not economic development. We are here to make sure the buses run on time and make sure people get clean drinking water, and that's a completely fair and reasonable position. But increasingly, municipalities are becoming involved with their important tools to leverage because they're competing for talent. And they're competing for talent and organizations and companies with their neighbors, and so it's just it's a necessity, and I think their citizens are increasingly seeing that as well. Attracting smart people and companies means having really great rec facilities and really good bus routes, right? And clean drinking water and fire and all of those things. And I think that's where that level of sophistication from citizens is probably playing into the mix a bit more.
Okay. And and I know we're gonna get in your actual report as you post to your update,
Yep.
we'll get more of the details. But one of the conversation points you brought up is that, there's a press, we've got so many home-based businesses working. And I would think historically there was kind of this thought you would start your business in your garage and then you would move and get a storefront, and that would be great because you'd be paying taxes on that business. But in the changing nature of the world, are we actually seeing home-based businesses wanting to move to a storefront, or because you can just keep running your accounting firm out of your home or your tech business out of your home? Like, are we seeing a changing societal need for what that path looks like?
Yeah, I mean, maybe my quick shot and experience with that is, I mean, you want to be able to quantum up as you grow from your home, and you're making cakes. We're baking cakes, and at some point you need to scale that, and so you need a different facility size depending on what thing it is that you're making in your home. There's a lot of home-based consultants who I'm sure don't need commercial retail space, and they're fine to have whatever that home-based business is and working from home. I've worked a lot with business improvement areas over the last 20 years, and I was in Toronto once visiting and chatting with the head of the business improvement areas for all of Toronto. There was like 120 of them or something like that. And he said to me, Evan, the transformation that will be happening in retail businesses on a 17th Avenue or on a main historic street, which is in the next 10 years, the front, and if you're thinking of your rectangular bay, right? The front 15% or 25% of that will be your retail storefront business, and the back is all going to be shipping and receiving. And it was a very interesting thing to consider how you're able to have a historic main street with bustling businesses and how you can support those businesses in being successful in this very globalized market, even quantums greater than in COVID. And what the municipality's role is to support, insert, incentivize, create commercial vacancy, and all of those things, I think, is in the mix of consideration. Yeah.
Okay.
Through the mayor to Councillor McFadden, if I could add a little bit more to that too. I think really what we're hoping to do with the strategy is ensure that we have that opportunity as well. I think it's a really good question, but for the ones that do want to scale, one of the things we heard qualitatively, I think going through Envision Cochrane 2050, and we're confirming as we go through the engagements with the economic development strategy, is that oftentimes businesses, Cochrane's always had a strong history and foundation of being an entrepreneurial municipality and helping start businesses. Unfortunately, if they're really, really successful, sometimes they have to choose to scale outside of Cochrane because their business doesn't have the opportunities to access the land or the types of land that they might need to scale. So that's what we're looking at with this, and it's great news that we have businesses looking to start in their homes. And we've been garnering some of that as well through some of the proactive steps the municipality has taken, like the launch of the engine room and the Cochrane Business Incubator, to try and incentivize and assist those businesses that want to scale with what they might need to do to get there. And I think that relates to being more proactive as well, of actively identifying and then trying to overcome the barriers for businesses to either, for us to attract the businesses we want and also retain the ones that maybe would love to stay in Cochrane, because most businesses who start here have a deep love of the municipality, but of course they need to look after the growth of their business as well. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had a good time chatting with you at the station.
Thank you.
Question is, can you elaborate investing in local business, small business? What does that mean from an outsider lens?
I guess I'll take a quick shot at that. Sorry, can you just repeat the question? What is it? What do we mean by investing in
Investing in local businesses.
I think that can take a range of different views. You can use tax incentives. You can use cash. You can get into, you could set up, and I'm just like literally naming as many municipal leverage tools as I can. You could set up a development corp whose job it was to increase commercial lands. You could, I mean, I would assume, and I should probably know this, but the viability and success of your home-based businesses was a land use development permit tool that allowed that to happen, right? And so I think, municipalities don't have a lot of tax levers. You can use some of the tax levers, but you do have a lot of leverage over your land and your land use, and in your investments in your downtown, right? Like there's a whole plethora of things that can happen that could support the small business community. Chambers of commerce organization, and then straight FTE counts. You could add 5 more staff to your FTE count. I'm just using that as a basic example to get out there to support small business communities with everything from small small evening programming like busking, setting up busking to happen up front of a business attractions. There's a whole range of tools that I can think of that will be identified in the report.
Going back to the downtown core, did you see the parking came up repeatedly, that people are facing some problems? I had an opportunity with our CEO, walk to the downtown core and talking with some businesses as well. They're saying sometimes they have to drive 3 times just to find a spot in there, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing that more frequently, happening, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think transportation is a huge component of the success or failure of your community, but particularly as I look at the downtown, I think that and now I'm like getting way ahead of myself, and my staff might be getting mad at me, but you have parking, obviously, right? And your parking strategy, how long people are allowed to park there, where do they have to pay for parking, not pay for parking if you collected park, and I'm not saying to do that. There's a whole parking strategy. Do you build structured parking, right? If you're going to start to develop a whole bunch of lands, do you have a municipal structured parking? The train line that comes through town causes traffic jams at times of day that are probably not the best. How do you think about grade separating the train? There's a whole bunch of pieces related to an integrated transportation and mobility that would for sure have, well, I think you all know this, will have an absolute impact on particularly if you think of the circulation in the downtown of the small businesses and how that impacts them and their success or failure.
And follow up to that, did you hear more on the line that the process of getting development permits, applying for the business license and some other, there's a little bit more challenging, or how does that coming along?
I think that popped up in some of the focus groups. As someone who's worked with municipalities for a long time, how can you make it even faster is the question that is always asked, even if, and my understanding is that the development process in Cochrane is pretty good compared to some other municipalities. But with citizens' expectations through how they use technology and can order something from California on Amazon, those expectations are putting significantly increased pressure on the regulatory systems and expectations of speed and time and due diligence across municipalities. But having a very efficient application process is important.
Okay, and I'm not sure if Mark would be able to answer. Do you know how many businesses we have in town, storefront and home-based businesses?
Through the mayor to Councillor Singh, I don't have the exact number, but that is those are metrics we report on in our results-based accountability annual report. So it is on that sheet. I can definitely provide it as an update through a council update as well, but I don't have it in front of me right now. My apologies.
The reason I asked, I wanted to say thank you to you and your team. Like your team is only maybe 1.5 or 2% and handling all those things. So kudos to the team, and I'm sure there's improvement going along. So it takes a lot in there. Just a final question. What do you see the opportunities and challenges to implement this strategy moving forward?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Singh, I think, one of the biggest challenges going forward is going to be ensuring that we have a plan in place to implement it effectively, and that we have the resources that we need to support it as we move forward. I think to your point, it's a small but mighty team, and they've done, I think, a great job. I think Cochrane should be quite proud of where they're at in terms of having a really well-developed business incubator. There's certain things that this municipality does that I think larger municipalities would love to do and wish that they could do. The main thing is making sure that that we're supporting it in the right way. And I think this is the first step, is to make sure we're always going to have a limited resource capacity with competing interests that we need to provide for the community, but making sure what my intent was and the hope in supporting council in this journey was helping develop a lens that will allow us to focus clearly on what our top priorities that have the biggest return on investment are, that best align with the community interests and needs, so that we can get more with the same amount of investment and possibly a little bit more as well. But I do think we have a lot of the work currently underway. Envision Cochrane 2050 was a foundational document to help support and guide that. And when you talk about development permits and building permits, we do have some work already underway that council supported with this year's budget that we'll be initiating soon. That'll look at opportunities to identify what the biggest challenges are and what the biggest, the least timely components of a development permit application process. That'll allow us to focus on those areas, and looking at our technology needs assessment work that's underway as well to see how we can help support it. To Mr. Woolley's point about how do we help increase our level of service to get closer to the expectations of the citizen. I would wager they're always going to continue to increase, which is not a bad thing. It means you have an active participation. So I hope that answers some of your question, and
thank you. I'm
staying on our track, I believe.
Thank you.
I would just quickly add that, one of the very positive stats, and I might just pop back and grab it here, which is this one. This is a very, very positive slide for where you're at as a community, which is 6 in 10 say Cochrane is performing well, and 5 in 10 are feeling good about the future. I can tell you, there's some places in Saskatchewan and the Northwest Territories that I'm hanging out in quite a bit where that is not the case. And so you've got citizens are feeling really, really good about the future, are asking for you to participate in that is a very, very positive place for you to be a council, and something that stuck out to me because, my goodness, I don't know if I'm that optimistic about our own future here, but I think this is a real bright spot. People are feeling good in your community, and they're leaned in.
Before I go back around, I want to jump in and ask you questions and weigh in a bit. I want to learn more about what the report found regarding tourism. When I've thought of the opportunities before our community, some of the opportunities we're actually actively pursuing right now are related to tourism. For example, the trail project, this regional transit conversation, and I also see the benefit of tourism in that it seems as though so many Cochrane residents want to see our historic downtown character protected, and those kind of boutique shops to be thriving and not the big box stores. But one of the critical components to a strong kind of high character downtown is day tourism and people coming out supporting local businesses as opposed to just residents buying stuff through convenience. But I noticed the report highlighted a number of people raised tourism in 2 different categories as opportunities for Cochrane. There's the there's a tourism and hospitality I see came up as well as
slide are
adventure
you
tourism.
speaking to?
I'm on 16, assuming my presentation matches your deck up there or what I've got here.
Yeah, it's not, can you pop that up?
It's the report, not the presentation.
Yeah, okay.
So it's identified in our economic strengths. When asked what Cochrane's biggest economic strengths are, the top responses were geographic. And then on that list, there's it says, anyways, tourism's there twice. But the question I want to ask you is if you could explain a bit the comments that were raised in your presentation as well as in this report about the polarizing nature of the community support for tourism.
And it might not have been just in this, but I think in some of the broader pieces, I think there's some of the pressures that come with tourism that have a downside. Traffic, lack of hotels. I'm just trying to think what else. Just like those kind of natural pressures of tourism, and that there has been some conversation in some of the focus groups that popped up, which is, are we ready for it? And does having that tourist economy drive away that quality of life component, which is the quiet stillness of the quiet streets and neighborhoods? And I think that there is some sense that that some of that tourism impact can have a negative impact for the local resident on their daily life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have data to back this up or if it's more anecdotal. Are you able to comment? Is that a minority view, a majority view, or is it like split 50-50?
I would say that would be a minority view, but I think it came up in the context of, also like a couple of pieces. And then again, some of this is anecdotal for me. Hosting more sporting events like hockey and other volleyball or whatever, that sporting event here, and the infrastructure required for like that regional tourism piece was big. I think one of the quotes that came up, which is they don't want to be like Cochrane, right? Canmore, sorry. They don't want to be like Canmore. I was like, they don't want to be like Canmore, right? Cochrane doesn't want to be like Canmore, and there is that affordability crisis that Canmore is faced with significantly that came up multiple times. And so, well, I don't think it's a negative thing. I think that people are pretty familiar with what they don't want and some of the pressures that tourism can have on it, right?
And
Hope that's helpful.
yeah, it is helpful. And I just want to get a good understanding of this because it is something we're actively talking about. So I want to kind of get a broader sense. Is there a notable contingent of people who see the benefits of it, the benefit that it has to our small businesses, our restaurants, experiences and stuff like that?
I think so. And I think what came up, particularly in a couple of focus groups, was like you said, like you're in this like really amazing corridor, this like very small local tourism corridor, north and south along the east edge of the Rockies. We talked to some folks in Sundre, and part of that, like there is this kind of like nice niche regional tourism piece north and south. And then you're sitting on the Trans-Canada Highway, and then finally, like the train is a conversation that is not meant for today, but what would the impacts of that be? The transformative impacts of a train that went out to Banff or Lake Louise, and then to the airport in Calgary. What would that have, and the impact from a tourism perspective with that?
So then my last follow-up point on this would be for yourselves as well as perhaps anybody else in administration. What process would we go through to solidify Cochrane's position on tourism? Because it's interesting it's being raised as both an opportunity and a threat in this report. But there are real projects that we're I'm actively advocating for. So the trail project, the regional rail project. At some point through this process, will we take a stand that yes, we want to bring visitors in here to spend money, or no, we just want to be a bedroom community?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor Nagel, to the Mayor. One of the things I wanted to highlight is there are, as you go through the report, components where tourism and hospitality is identified as one of the strengths as well in terms of specific sectors that the general public would like us to target without any prompts. I mean, it was fairly a generic opportunity for them to provide their own feedback on the types of sectors. So in terms of setting ourselves up, I mean, I think we're on that journey as well too. Council supported this year a tourism strategy and development of that we've been working on getting some assistance and funding with as well. That will take the identification of a sector we want to focus on and then answer some of the questions that you're talking about by doing a deep dive into what types of tourism does the community really want and aligns with their values, and what types of tourism maybe they're not trying to target. And I think Mr. Woolley very elegantly identified the challenges I think we see in this community is being in such close proximity to Canmore and Banff, and we'll see it more as we get more feedback through the focus groups we're doing and provide that to council with the report. It can make it really challenging for the resident if you get too successful, we'll say, like Canmore and Banff, and it becomes unaffordable for a resident to access the amenities that they like if they get pushed out of their parks. But there is also a component of, to your point, Mayor Nagel, you're not going to generate that additional investment from outside sources if we're not attracting people to come to our community. I think we have a very good opportunity to learn from how Canmore and Banff grew to enable ourselves to grow our tourism while avoiding the challenges that Canmore had as they grew. So, and I think if we're really fortunate, we could maybe get to the point of being a Canmore for tourism without the negatives that go along with it. But there's a long road ahead for us to ever, get to the same point as a Canmore, and lots of opportunity for us to avoid that. That we'll look at more deeply in the tourism strategy that we plan on developing later this year.
Yeah, and I would add to the conversation that the infrastructure and housing challenges Canmore has are complex, but I think another piece that is often missed is I think part of the reason Canmore's had challenges isn't just because of the tourism. It's also because there has been a fight against the tourism as opposed to accommodating it. The community has not wanted to build more parking. The community does not want to have bigger roads. They've made it almost impossible to develop new homes, so it shouldn't surprise anybody. All the existing homes are unaffordable. And I think there's a conversation to be had about recognizing that tourism's coming and getting ready for it instead of just saying, no, we don't want it, which is what I think a big part of the problem in the Rockies has been. But yeah, I'd like to get further clarification from our group on that whole issue, because I want us to advocate for these tourism opportunities, but if council and the community don't want us to, I think we need to get clear on that as well.
I would be very surprised. In fact, I have not seen an economic development strategy for a community that doesn't have tourism and hospitality in some fashion in it. I would be very, very surprised that this one didn't either.
Okay. All right, over to Councillor Verdejo again.
Thanks. Mr. Krasinski, you said that you'd be looking at kind of the development permit process. I was wondering if you'd also be looking at, because I actually just took a call this afternoon about somebody talking about the length of time for rezoning opportunities, land use rezoning, and I realize that there's obviously a process that goes along and it has to come to council. But will you look at that process as well? Because this person had mentioned just a deal that they're working on was going to be a 6-month process for them to go through a land use rezone. So will some of your things that you're looking at when you're talking about the processes, or things that perhaps council could change policy on, will you be looking at the rezoning part of that as well?
Through the mayor to Councillor Verdejo, it's not currently within the scope of what we requested budget for this year. We would have to amend our scope, but it's definitely something we can have on the list and explore for future continual improvement opportunities in planning. There is some work that we're planning as well this year in terms of a land use bylaw review, which may also assist in some of that. But the current scope for this year was an audit of the development permit application process to identify which components of the process contribute the most to the timelines of it. And it was mostly in response to some comments that we had heard and requests from council from last year. So it was identified for this year, but we can definitely put that on our list of things to look at in the future.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile. I mean, because his point was just, when we're looking to attract business and you have a business owner who wants to come in and set up shop, but if it's going to take them a 6-month process to get rezoned, then sometimes they just choose to look elsewhere. So I think it's worth looking at taking a look at the process of how we currently rezone.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So before I call the question, just clarification, next steps. So we've had this update here this evening, and this will be back in front of council before the summer break? Okay, excellent. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Call the question. All in favor of accepting as information? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, item 7B, AISH to ADAP transition, a proposed council advocacy letter. Director Knox.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we get started this afternoon, I'd like to take a moment to reintroduce an individual who has joined the social development team. So with me tonight, I have Chantel Barber, who is now our social planning and inclusion advisor. So you may have known her role as our community liaison DEI. The function really began as a community liaison, inclusion-focused role, supporting relationships, belonging, access, and barrier awareness. It was very valuable to the community, but not fully yet defined as part of that broader social planning function in a municipality, and focused on that accessibility and advisory function. So the role joined social development in August, and we wanted to evolve it to really a social systems-focused translator that helps the town anticipate and navigate community accessibility, inclusion challenges, and opportunities as a core strategic function. So when we have a social community issue, such as this one we're bringing forward tonight, this is the role that helps the municipality in navigating it. Think of social planning as our social policies, our system level, and pattern spotting. And think of the role as someone who is our external connector to social and equity deserving groups who helps us with internal advice. So with that, I'll pass it off to Chantel Barber to chat more with all of you about our proposed letter around AISH and ADAP. You can click or click.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm bringing forward a proposed and draft advocacy letter regarding the province of Alberta's transition from the Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped program, known as AISH, to the new Alberta Disability Assistance Program, or ADAP, at Council's request. The province has been moving forward with this transition for over a year. Tonight, I'll walk through what we are asking, the context behind the ask, and advocacy considerations. Members of Council previously directed administration to bring forward a proposed advocacy letter on this issue. Tonight's recommendation is for Council to consider, amend, or approve that draft and direct the Mayor to send it. The letter is built around 4 key points rather than a broad set of concerns. Since the draft was shared with Council, the province has released their final regulations, to which administration will be offering a recommended amended letter, which reflects these updates. Note that throughout, the letter reinforces Cochrane's ongoing partnership with the province, referencing recent collaboration with the Hawthorne announcement and the ongoing investment into Cochrane's FCSS programs. Briefly, the province is evolving its working age disability income supports for adults aged 18 to 64 from one program known as AISH to a 2-program system that includes ADAP. AISH will continue for Albertans whose disabilities prevent them from working. ADAP is intended for Albertans whose severe disabilities substantially impede employment, but who are assessed as able to work with supports. ADAP recipients can earn up to $700 per month in employment income without their disability benefits being reduced. The province has allocated $250 million for employment supports as part of this change. Of the current 79,000 AISH clients across Alberta, approximately 38%, or 30,000, will automatically stay on AISH. The remaining 62%, approximately 50,000, will move to ADAP. There is a $200 per month difference between the 2 programs, roughly a 10% gap. The province has built in a transition benefit that closes that gap for current AISH clients moving to ADAP for the next 18 months. Until December 31st, 2027, those clients continue to receive $1,940 per month. After that date, the rate steps down to $1,040. One important nuance on these rates, as of April this year, the AISH headline rate assumes that the recipient has the approved federal Canada disability benefit of $200 per month. Recipients without this receive the provincial portion only, which is $1,540. Obtaining DTC certification typically requires a paid medical assessment. This means that the headline rate isn't the full picture for the most vulnerable recipients. Final regulations, as mentioned, were released last week, and letters explaining each client's placement are being mailed to current clients this month. So beyond what's happening, a few considerations that might shape council's thinking on this letter. 8 municipal councils have already written to the province on this issue. All 8 have framed part of their advocacy as a request for the province to pause or delay implementation. St. Albert is reviewing a similar motion at their council tonight. Their administration has proposed an alternative motion that focuses on FCSS funding and municipal impacts in lieu of a pause request, giving council a sense of the range of the approaches that other municipalities are considering. The Intercity Forum on Social Policy wrote to Minister Nixon on March 20th requesting additional implementation information as well. Throughout, the draft letter reinforces Cochrane's existing partnership and desire to collaborate with the province. To ground this in Cochrane terms, this graph shows how we estimate local impact using public data. Stats Canada 2022 Canadian Survey on Disability indicates that 28% of Albertans aged 15 and older live with one or more disabilities. Applied to Cochrane, that's approximately 8,800 residents. Of Albertans with a disability, approximately 8.6% currently receive AISH. Apply that to Cochrane, that suggests approximately 700 to 800 residents currently receive AISH. The province does not publish municipal level data, and we are a part of the Greater Calgary aggregate, so this is a planning estimate. When we include family members and caregivers, several thousand Cochrane residents are affected by this transition either directly or indirectly. Cochrane FCSS, our food security partners, and community agencies will be the first point of contact for many of these residents and their families. Since the letter was originally drafted, the province released its final regulations as mentioned. Several of the concerns initially raised by council are now publicly addressed, while others remain unresolved. The eligibility criteria is now public and includes the 4 categories of clients who automatically will stay on AISH: those living with severe developmental disabilities, palliative or terminal conditions, continuing care residents, and those who are age 60 plus. Reassessment processes are confirmed with the province, paying for 1 medical assessment with no time limit. Specific benefit rates are set. Employment income has an exemption set at $700 per month. Clients can earn over $45,000 annually while retaining benefits with gradual clawback above that exemption. ADAP is $1,740 and AISH to continue at $1,940 with the Canadian Disability Benefit. Critical benefit rates are now confirmed. Health benefit continuity is confirmed for both programs regardless of the employment income, and financial transition protections are confirmed. Current AISH clients moving to ADAP will continue to receive the $1,940 per month until December 31st, 2027 through a $200 a month transition benefit. What remains unsolved that council could consider? Cost of living indexation. Automatic annual adjustments are not currently legislated and no replacement mechanism has been announced. Appeal pathways for placement decisions. The review process available to clients who disagree with their AISH or ADAP placement has not been publicly described. Clarity on procedural fairness mechanisms would support resident confidence in the new system. Support for clients through the transition itself. No transition-specific helpline or community navigation has been published yet, and no published plan addresses clients who may face barriers navigating the transition, including those without stable mailing addresses, those experiencing isolation, or those navigating cognitive or mental health challenges. There is a need for plain language materials for municipal and community partners, who will be the first point of contact. Sorry, I gotta go back one. Implementation supports and resourcing for municipalities. No funding allocation or coordination mechanism named. A designated point of contact for municipal implementation would support coordinated local response. So these are the emerging considerations that weren't part of the original draft letter but have come into focus as the province has released more information. There are factual observations that may inform amendments to the letter that we've drafted or shape future advocacy. 2 adult household rule. Effective 1 month after the launch, the 2 adult disability households will each receive 88% of the individual benefit instead of the full rate. So that's 2 adults cohabitating that are both receiving the benefit. This applies to both AISH and ADAP and to any combination of the two. So for an AISH couple, that's roughly $466 a month in household adjustment. And for an ADAP couple, that's roughly $418 a month. No transition benefit has been announced for these specific households, unlike the protection that's in place for the single transitioning clients. January 1st, 2028. This date matters for local planning. The province has emphasized July 1st, 2026 as a launch date, but no current client sees a payment change on day one. The rate adjustment for the largest single group, the 50,000 transitioning clients, occurs 18 months later in midwinter. Cochrane should anticipate 2 demand windows on community supports, an information and transition demand window this summer, and a financial demand window in late 2027, early 2028. Engagement findings. The province's own public engagement portal lists the ADAP engagement as results under view, not yet completed. Engagement closed in September 2025. The final regulations are public and implementation is approximately 6 weeks away, but the formal What We Heard report has not yet been published. Harmonized AISH and ADAP regulation. Bill 12 established that one regulation, the AISH General Regulation, now covers both programs. In practice, this means future changes to either program, such as eligibility thresholds, exemption calculations, or household rules, can be made administratively by the Cabinet applying to both programs simultaneously without returning for debate. This is why ongoing engagement with municipalities, FCSS programs, and community partners matters going forward. Just the... Sorry, I'll just pull up the recommended draft here. If you can, oh, can I scroll on it? I knew that. All right, so a portion of the letter is similar as to was when it was presented to you. The updated portion I'll just read here is highlighted. Council acknowledges that the province has now provided additional clarification regarding several aspects of the transition, including eligibility criteria, reassessment processes, benefit rates, employment income exemptions, health benefit continuity, child benefits, spousal pension exemptions, and temporary financial transition protections for affected individuals. These updates are appreciated and help address some of the questions previously raised by municipalities, service providers, and residents. Council remains concerned about the broader impacts of the transition, including benefit adequacy over the longer term, the removal of legislative cost of living indexation, review or appeal pathways, and the implications for municipal programs and community organizations. And then just an update on those 4 key points. Council respectfully requests that the Government of Alberta ensures review and appeal pathways are clearly communicated, accessible, and in place before implementation proceeds. Commits to ongoing meaningful accessible consultation with people living with disabilities, family advocacy organizations, municipalities, FCSS programs, community agencies, and healthcare providers. Bullet 3 remains the same. And then bullet 4, provide implementation support and resourcing to municipalities and community agencies during both the July 2026 launch and the January 2028 conclusion of the temporary transition benefit. So with that, administration recommends that council approves the revised letter, which reflects the May 12th release while preserving the original 4 asks and the partnership framing with the province. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Start with Councillor Verdejo.
Thank you for this. First of all, I'll put the recommended action on the floor that we approve the letter. As being a council member, that I was definitely advocating for this letter to come forward for quite a while now. The one concern that I've heard many times over is that even within our own community, there doesn't seem to be a place where people who have severe disabilities can actually go to find out the relevant information, and I think that's a big block within our community, kind of like what you said, like you can change policy, and we all understand that policy might have to change and things have to change over time, but when you're already a person who has needs that doesn't necessarily understand all the ins and outs of what the policy is changing, they don't even know where to go. And I feel like people are kind of lost, hence the request of so many municipalities asking for a pause and maybe a clear action going forward. So I am glad that we're stepping forward into a space to be able to advocate just to slow it down. We realize that we're not looking to stop anything or you know, putting a hard no, but it's to advocate for people that that do need the help. And obviously we all know that even a marginal gap in funding is huge within our community. There are people who can barely survive, and I think it showed up there was at $3,200 a month just to meet the standard of living in Cochrane, and then you're talking about people being reduced down to $1,900. I mean, where do people go? So I'm glad that this council's taking this seriously and at least standing up for the people in our community who need our voice to help protect them.
Councillor McDonald?
The first thing I want to say is that I think ADAP could prove to be a really fantastic program and really truly help Albertans. It's more just the implementation that we're asking for a pause on, not the actual program itself. Just kind of piggybacking on Councillor Fedeko, we tried to run an information night with Inclusion Cochrane where we could shine some more light on this transition, and the province was unable to send someone because they hadn't been given clearance yet to talk about the program. And so getting so close to the transition date and not being able to answer those questions at the community level is a really alarming thing. You mentioned, I think, $250 million for employment supports. Do you know, have they said what that will actually look like?
No, please.
Through the mayor to Councillor McDonald. The $250 million employment supports investment includes career planning, assistive technology, supported job placements, and employer resources.
Okay. I think that those first three are great, but the last one is the most important. There's an assumption with ADAP that employers are lining up around the block to be hiring these individuals. So I'm glad that was the fourth bullet. If anyone is wondering how many people actually care about this and is this a big issue, because it's not like these calls are ringing our phones off the hook. These are some of our quietest residents for a lot of really, really great reasons. These aren't the folks who are going to be able to advocate the loudest. And so just keep that in mind. And then my final question, any idea why removing the cost of living indexation would be part of this transition? I know this isn't your program and I'm putting you on the spot.
Through the mayor to Councillor McDonald, that was part of Bill 12. Remove the legislated requirement for annual cost of living adjustments to AISH and ADAP.
Okay.
So to clarify, there wasn't a specific
Explanation.
reason given
Sure.
by the province for that.
Sure. So I think that's also really dangerous. We all know what affordability is looking like and changing daily, super, super volatile. So removing that automatic adjustment is a concern for sure. I definitely support this letter going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for bringing this together and bringing it here tonight for council's consideration. One of the things that was important to me about this letter, and it's included in here, was not just coming at the Alberta government as an all-out assault. It's about finding a balance between recognizing the great things that this department in particular and the government in general has been doing for Cochrane. We've had a lot of great news in our community, and some of the municipal governments out there take a bit more of a hostile approach. I don't think that's super productive to our advocacy relationship with the Alberta government, and I think this does a really good job of finding that balance. And also just wanted to kind of amplify something Councillor McDonald said about the residents who need this advocacy and need this program. One of the things that's important about it, even though doesn't affect everybody, is those who it does impact, it means everything to them. So it may not be super duper important to the whole population, But for those people who it is important to, it is likely one of their most important things they're facing in their entire life. I think, now I know the draft you had up there is a little bit different than what was in our agenda package. There were, I think, 2 things I would like to try and see included in the letter, or minor shifts. And I don't want to try and get into wordsmithing up here, but firstly, I felt that the statement that Councillor McDonald made about how we appreciate the intent of ADAP, it's a matter of execution. I don't know if that concept was captured in the letter, but I certainly share that sentiment. And if it is in there somewhere, please point it out or let me know.
I don't think it is,
And-
through to the mayor. So sorry, again, the appreciate ADAP as an intent.
We appreciate the intent of what they're trying to achieve with ADAP, and we have concerns remaining regarding the implementation of it. And then the other piece is this letter reads as though it is just council's concerns, but the reality is the only reason this is on our agenda in the first place because we've heard about it from so many passionate residents. And I would appreciate if the language was more indicative of that nature of it. So for example, it says council respectfully requests, perhaps we could add language in or adjust language where it says on behalf of concerned residents, council is requesting. So just those two ideas I would appreciate capturing here. One, we appreciate the intent of what they're doing, but it's a matter of implementation. And then secondly, raising that it's not just council's ideas, it's actually, we're speaking on behalf of some concerned residents. But yeah, I don't know if we need to make motions to vote on that. I've seen some nodding heads, which isn't really a procedural thing, but anyways, over to Councillor Singh.
Thank you to the administration for preparing the draft advocacy letter and for acknowledging the province's ongoing support to Cochrane and our community partners. Before I start anything, I just wanted to ask, like, what is the procedure? That question might be to the administration. So if we're writing one letter, what are the procedure of writing, let's say, advocating for extending hours for the urgent care and other, like, you know, is it letter that we have to bring it, or what's the procedure looks like for that in there?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, letters of support that are provided from council have to come through this chambers, so that you need full council endorsement, majority vote, to actually have those letters go out advocating for those things.
Oh, sure. Okay, thank you. And I still feel there are some important details that have not been fully clarified publicly. And at this stage, I don't feel I would say, like, did you get any information from the letters the other municipalities sent, like, you know, the responses they received from the province? Or the letter from the ICF, like, you know?
So through the chair to Councillor Singh, we haven't seen from any of the municipalities who've been in touch a response from the province specifically. They may have received one, but to be really transparent and honest, we didn't go and ask all of them specifically, you know, what have you heard back or things like that. I think we could probably check in with the IGR team if they had heard more of that. But from my understanding, this, you know, even the release on May 12th from the province may have been part of that response. But I'm not sure if we would individually receive a response from, no, not typically, so.
Okay, because I know we are part of the Intercity Forum, so they have written a letter as well. I think it's important we continue to work collaboratively with the Alberta government on this issue and to ensure our best outcome for residents who rely on this support. Would you think, and this is to the council, that if administration continue conversation or correspondence with ministry first through email or correspondence, like, you know, rather than writing a letter and get the full detail before we send a letter, that would be a path forward. Like, we can, and then once they get a response, then if there's some need or wants, then we can write a letter. Like, you know, I'm not opposing, like, you know, it's a great cause, but like, just to start the conversation with admin to admin, and then like we can.
So I can perhaps answer that. I think in kind of the parliamentary tradition, the best way to engage in an official conversation with any ministerial department is with a letter. So that shows the body is officially communicating about this. And I think we'll get, if we want to create a dialogue with the department, sending a formal letter like this, I suspect is the best way to start the conversation. And ministers get letters all the time, even from their own MLAs and caucus members. So I actually think this letter is the beginning of a constructive conversation.
I'll wait for other comments before, yeah.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. I can add to your thoughts, Councillor Singh. I had similar concerns when I read this. I was favoring option 3 as I walked into chambers tonight, simply because I worry that we're straying far beyond our municipal bounds and lane. But I do appreciate the tack that Christine's office has taken with this. I appreciate the alterations that the mayor offered today, the way that we're coming at this respectfully, and to ask perhaps for a pause and a revisit of what they're doing. Ultimately, just like you, Councillor Singh, I'm worried that this just is simply outside of our purview. But with the tact we've taken and the wording that I've seen here tonight, I'd be willing to endorse it, despite my misgivings that I share with you tonight. I think we've taken a responsible tact in this letter, and therefore I dividedly support option 1 tonight.
Councillor McFadden?
I think, so to the last point, you know, generally speaking, yeah, this is how the elected officials speak to each other, is through these formal channels. And so in and of itself, writing a letter is not usually considered an antagonistic approach. It's the language you put into it. And even without the suggested amendments from the mayor, there's a lot of like highlighting the wins and the talk about collaboration, and it's identified the most recent clarifications that have come down from the minister's office. So just to the point, these are just communication tools by which we register that the municipality has an interest in it. In and of itself, it's not an aggressive tool. To the point about whether this is in our lane or not, I argue this is in our lane, in that, and what was said tonight really resonates with me, is we have a role to speak for those who can't. And I certainly have friends and family that are directly impacted by this, and so, and to the mayor's comments, this means everything, and they have no way to advocate in a safe way for many folks. And so I really do feel it is municipal's responsibility to be their voice in this. And so I certainly back that. I would be willing to support the letter as is, but if we can amend it, you know, today or tonight, I would prefer to do that as opposed to delay it by even a week. I think the sooner we can communicate the intent of it, the better off we are. So whatever process by which we can get a letter in this direction out the door, I support. I don't really support delaying it beyond tonight. So if we can take a 10-minute recess, and if you want to propose an exact wordsmith.
Procedurally, do we need the recess to get the actual letter amended? Is that preferred?
At this point, council would simply need Councillor Fedayko to accept a friendly amendment to her initial resolution. Councillor
Fedayko, do you accept my proposals as a friendly amendment?
I will accept your proposal for a friendly amendment if this can move across the floor. And I agree with Councillor McFadden. I don't want it delayed. I think that we've been asked for a long time to be able to stand in a place to support this, and I don't want to see it kicked down the road any further.
Okay, my math skills suggest there's a clear majority wanting to move forwards. Councillor Wilson?
Just a quick apology for me. I just called Chantel Christine, but thank you, Chantel, for your office's support, and Matt and the tact you've taken in this letter. My apologies.
It's a compliment.
Okay, Councillor Singh, anything else?
So I'm not opposing one or the other, but I'm just trying to understand what is the procedure. If we're writing a letter for one, are we going to write a letter for somebody else as well? That urgent care has been here, issue like, you know, we have so many instances that extending the hours. So this is important, but that thing is important as well. Like same as important as our fire services, same as important as our urgent care, ambulances and everything. So I'm just trying to understand the thing that if we're writing one letter, are we writing the other letters, or is we are choosing one over the other?
So, Councillor Singh, Yeah, we can absolutely do other letters. I would just, in the interest of efficiency procedurally, just try and bring forward items that you suspect will get 4 or more votes in favor of it. But if administration's not bringing something forward on their own, we can always do a notice of motion for a letter as well. So we can absolutely do other letters. Let's not go crazy, blasting too many letters out there, but certainly 1 or 2 more that are likely to get a majority support. I would encourage you to bring them forward. Councillor Padeko?
To Councillor Singh's point, I think part of this is because it has to do with legislation that is currently moving forward, where us asking for urgent care and increase in hours is completely different in my mind of what you're advocating for. Maybe some of the things that I think we'll see possibly in the future is the changes to the emergency services with paramedics and things coming forward. I think maybe that would be an advocacy one, depending on what legislation is coming forward with it. But I think the reason why this is so important that we're speaking out is because it has to do with particular policy that changes things. So it's not that I wouldn't be supportive of advocating for urgent care. It's just, to me, they're 2 completely different items.
Councillor McDonald?
Very similar. We're on a tight timeline here to affect any kind of change that will make our residents more comfortable during this pretty significant transition. So I would say that's a key piece. Everything else you named I mean, they're apples to oranges for sure, but they're all of utmost importance. But this transition happens on July 1st. So that's why I would say this is a here and now issue.
Mr. Mayor, if I can as well, I just want to comment. I'd heard from several members of council how important this was. We're trying to be responsive and support council, and so certainly that's where the team prepared the letter and brought it forward. So if there's other issues, certainly let us know, and we can bring those forward as well.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification on that. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor of the letter as amended? Carried. Those opposed? That vote is carried. Okay. And that is the end of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that brings us into notices of motion. There's none on the agenda. It'll take us to Mayor's Report. So last week, big highlight for me was really presenting to the Rotary Club. Thank you, Councillor Padeko, for coming in and joining that. I was a Rotary Exchange student, as was somebody else in our organization, Mr. Knox. But it was very surreal for me speaking in front of the Rotary Club 15 years after being on their exchange program. Whereas in the past, the last time I presented to them was talking about their exchange program, and this time I was talking about all the things going on in our community of Cochrane. Everything we've done over the last 6 months really has added up. I intend to record that same presentation and post it up on Facebook and YouTube soon. I don't know how many people will watch a 40-minute presentation, but I think it should just exist on the internet for people to know what's going on. I also did some tours around some of our new communities, saw some of the stuff being built, had a few ideas come up on how we can improve some of our communities. One thing I want to daylight for council is I think we need to be thoughtful of some of our new parks being built over in Greystone. We may want to look at the parking regulations there. I suspect, without any expert advice or actual data, I suspect there may be a bit of a parking conflict at the new ball diamonds that are being built, in that I think it may naturally become a parking spot for everybody who lives in the multifamily units, which would potentially cause a conflict for people wanting to park at the ball diamonds. I think it'd be something we should look into as soon as possible. Also met with ATCO. One of the things that came up in our conversation is that they regularly have business and commercial opportunities come across their desk from their various partners, and they wanted to know if Cochrane would be open for learning about various business ideas should they come up. Something that was discussed, of course, is other communities have had data centers, and the message I gave to ATCO is our council always wants to hear about any opportunity, but that is, of course, not to say what council's position may be on any business opportunities. Also had quite a number of growth conversations, talking about how we can move forwards on the notice of motion that was previously approved. One of the things I keep coming back to is the importance of taking baby steps on that. Updating our strategic documents, and just kind of biting off one piece at a time, and then hopefully having some sort of material change in our approach to the next the applications or set of applications that come forward, rather than trying to revolutionize our entire development approval process in one broad omnibus stroke. I think marginal changes will be the best path forwards. And something else I wanted to bring forward is just looking ahead. I do have a meeting with the folks that are advocating for the regional rail project. I'm meeting with the minister this week with that group of individuals, talking about the economic benefits of regional transportation. We also have a big project meeting coming up on the trail project, meeting with the Rotary Club, and those are two things I want to highlight early on in our economic development strategy. So those conversations are alive and well. And the next big thing coming up is we're hosting all the regional mayors here at the Ranch House. That'll be that's the organization that's replacing CMRB. All right. Any questions about my mayor's report? Can I get a motion to accept? Councillor Singh?
I'll make a motion to accept, yeah.
Conversation? Seeing none? All in favor? Carried. Council reports. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. I want to shine a spotlight on 2 upcoming environmental initiatives. This weekend, the Cochrane Environmental Action Committee, in partnership with the town of Cochrane, is holding the 27th annual Branches and Barks. They will be planting 1,800 trees, starting in Mitford Park. So if that interests you at all, this is open to kids, families, friends, coworkers. There is a volunteer registration process, so definitely go check that out. And then secondly, on June 11th, the Natural Environment Protection Task Force, along with the town of Cochrane, is presenting an evening with Brian Keating. Mr. Keating is the founding director of conservation of the Calgary Zoo. The topic of the evening will be how we share our wildlife corridor. From deer to coyotes to the occasional bear or cougar, navigate and coexist within our community along the Bow River. The evening also includes interactive education booths where residents can learn more about wildlife conservation and how to live responsibly within our natural environment. So 2 really terrific initiatives that everybody should check out. That's all.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you. I visited our local Cochrane RCMP detachment for the National Police Week, and I thank the team for the work they do in our communities. And I'm also joining on May 23rd, the branches entry at the, yes, I'm doing that. Looking ahead, on May 30th, I'll be organizing the Saturday Fun Walk at the Riverfront Park from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. This event will serve as a community kickoff to the Seniors Week, an opportunity to bring seniors, family, and residents together in celebration, connection, and appreciation. The event aims to raise awareness of the important role and lasting contribution seniors make in our community and everyday lives. It is also an opportunity for Cochrane residents to come together, strengthen community connections, and promote active and healthy living. And as we approach our June 30th property tax deadline, I would like to work collaboratively with our administration team to explore some short-term temporary operational flexibility options that could better support our residents during the final days of payment periods. I recognize that many residents commute to work, including to our nearby centers such as Calgary, and even while working in Cochrane, sometimes late shifts ends around 4:30 or 5 p.m. This can make it difficult to access in-person payment services during regular business hour. With that in mind, I would welcome discussion on whether there may be flexibility to extend hours temporarily in 1 or more locations, potentially up till 6 p.m. during the final days before the deadline. I'm confident that administration can identify practical and innovative solutions, or at the minimum begin the conversation how we can continue improving accessibility and service for our residents. Thank you.
Okay. Any other reports? Can I get a motion to accept the council reports? Councillor Federico is making that motion. Conversation? All in favor? Carried. And that is the end of our public component of our agenda. We do have 2 closed session items. Can I get a motion to go into closed session from council? Councillor McDonald?
I so moved.
All in favor? Carried. And let's take a 5-minute break while the feed switches over.